Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sports Khabri with me, Aradi and Rishi, and we are gearing up for the UEFA Europa League final. Um, Quite interesting is Manchester United Chelsea. Rishi, going into it before we discuss the topic at hand, how do you
Yeah,
feel,
I
bro?
know you hate Tottenham, but it's actually
Manchester
unfortunately
United and Tottenham, Rahul.
Huh?
fine.
It's Tottenham who are playing, not Chelsea.
Or did I say, bro? I don't know why, but I've been saying Chelsea every single time. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
now your
I,
allegiance is being revealed finally.
No, but I don't know. No, genuinely, it's a problem, bro. Like I've said, United Chelsea at least like 6 7 times in the last 5 days. It's genuinely a problem. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's United Spurs. Um, I think it's in Bilbao. No, yeah, it is in Bilbao. So, yeah.
San Mames.
Rishi, what are we feeling, bro? Ahead of the final, how, of course, Champions League spot at stake through the league, though you are never going to get it. Grand 16th place finish is what you're expecting this year, but yeah.
I mean, this like for a team that's beaten us thrice this year, I know, I mean, we all know how Tottenham are going to approach the game. They're going to throw everything at it. They're going to try and outrun us. That's pretty much how they, got the better of us. We just simply couldn't keep up with their not physicality but their legwork. And if we don't do that, if we concede like that, that's for me, that's what I genuinely feel, that if we concede the first goal, there's no coming back from it, because the
Mm.
minute our players step up in search for a goal, they're going to just keep running us out. So for us, that first goal is going to be crucial. And for a team that beat us thrice, I am kind of nervous, but I know, like, deep down it we have bigger problems. So even if we lose out on this, okay, if we win, we get a Champions League spot. But how much of a difference is that going to make for us, not from a financial perspective, but from like a, squad perspective? We need a wholesale of changes. We'll need a good recruitment, window coming up. So like Champions League, it's just going to add to our misery, like in the sense that we're going to have a wholesale of games coming up where our squad can't compete with that. So yeah, I mean, it is good. It is, of course, a trophy at the end of the season, a place in the Champions League, that money coming in. But I don't think I'd be too gutted if we lost also.
Interesting, interesting. Now, the big question, Adi, there's a lot of conversation around this, whether after the revamping of the UCL, the fact that there are no teams dropping in, there are more teams in the Champions League now, and you don't have teams dropping into the Europa League. Do teams in the Europa League deserve a Champions League spot? Do you think? Obviously, this is in the backdrop of United and Spurs being 16th and 17th in the league, respectively. But do you think, in general, now a Europa League winner deserves a Champions League spot?
Um, it depends because I don't think anyone had a problem till now, right? So I don't see why you could say it's a big change, even if you're telling the factor of, okay, two teams who are finishing 17th and 16th respectively, uh, playing the UCL final, I mean Europa final, but the whole point was a UEL would give you a spot to the UCL. If you win it, it's the same thing like saying, does an FA Cup winner deserve a spot in UEL? Because you're not finishing sixth in the league, seventh in the league. It's similar status, right? I think overall, I think it's been fair. I've never had a problem with UEL winners playing the UCL. For me, at least, it is a bit. Maybe the irony is okay because two teams who have finished lower in the table, and it is the stature of the teams are still the so-called top six, whatever it was made. And coming from that perspective, obviously, rival fans or like the media would come up right now and say, okay, like, what's the point of you know winning the UEL and then going to UCL? But the same people, if it was for their club, I think they would be fine with it. I think
Mm.
Wenger made that statement, but I remember when he was struggling to finish in the top five, top four, he was really also focusing on Europa League to get into the UCL. So I think that hypocrisy only comes when it's not in favor of the club. But overall, it's fine. I think it's okay. Like, I don't
How many
think.
seasons has Wenger played in the Europa League? That's a max one. I don't even think has he played one also. I don't even think one.
No, last 3 seasons he played
He played two
more
or
than
three
okay.
seasons, yeah, the
Like
Griezmann
20,
Atletico
20,
Madrid season.
20, 17, 18 he left. No.
Yeah, so we finished what 2 seasons under him. We played the Europa League, but the whole
Fine.
point is like
I
it
don't
was fine
remember.
when.
But anyways,
Because no, the whole, whole
my
thing
point
was
is
when
not that.
Arsenal were finishing sixth, we were like, okay, we need UEL to qualify, and that time no one had a problem with
No.
top
My point
four.
is not that fundamentally there was an issue. I'm asking you now, with the changes, it doesn't make sense. Leave the fact that United and Spurs are 16 and 17, whatever in the league. Simply the fact that now it's a lot easier to win the competition. A, because you don't have Champions League teams falling into the Europa League, which is a lot of teams, right?
Yeah,
That's a lot of teams. All
but
third
that's
place teams of every group. 8 teams not falling in, and you have more teams in the Champions League. So
but that's the
effectively, you have
same.
12 teams lesser to compete with.
But there's the same logic of saying like an
Hmm?
FA Cup winner who finished 12th in the season,
No,
or
I'm
any other
saying leave
team.
the league. I'm saying leave the league. I'm not
But
saying
it's the same call,
But
Rahul. It's
why?
the
It's
same
the same
principle.
logic,
it's not.
Rahul.
Why
It's not
is
the same
winning
logic.
an? It
Once
is
again,
because you're
FA
playing.
Cup
Wait, wait,
has
wait,
been the
wait, wait,
same
wait.
competition throughout. No matter what, you play the top team. You have to play. There's no excuse to play the top division teams in England. For example, if I'm a
You
championship
can
team,
like
no,
wait for
I'm giving you.
for FA
One
Cup.
second. One second. Let me
But
finish.
FA Cup, you
If
can have smaller teams till the final and then win.
Bro,
Like look
that's
at
what I'm
United
saying,
last
Adi.
year.
There is
They had
no
a
way.
smaller
That is
team.
exactly my point. The point is that in an FA Cup, if I'm a championship team, I will have to play a Premier League team. There's no doubt about it. In the Europa League now,
Exactly.
they
But
don't have
Rahul,
to
your
play
point,
any Champions League team.
Rahul, but your
So
whole
do you
point
deserve
is
a spot after
But
that?
your whole point you're saying is
Yeah.
when like teams, big teams can also play smaller teams, perform bad. If the same logic was United won the FA Cup instead of the Europa League, they would have finished 16th. They would have won the FA Cup and then still gone to the Europa League, which is the same status of winning the Europa League and going to the Champions League. At the end of the day, you're going to
No, it's
play
not
teams.
because they're two different.
Yes.
No, in the FA Cup,
How? FA
you
Cup is
will
a
have to
different
play.
competition to Europa League. Why are you
No,
qualifying for Europa?
in the FA Cup you will have to play a Premier League team. There's no excuse. In the
No,
Europa
that is
League,
not how
in the
FA Cup
revamp,
works, Rahul. You can literally
Adi,
have
okay,
champions.
one second.
Are you telling me you
Let's just
can't
think
face
about it.
championship teams?
Huh?
No, the whole point is in an FA Cup you can literally face championship teams and go. The whole point is not
You
about
will ultimately have to play a Premier
Rahul,
League team.
it's not
That's the
Rahul,
necessary.
point.
like
Not necessary.
like
What do you
until
mean
this
not
season,
necessary?
Rahul,
Obviously.
until the start of this season or even last season, City were managing to draw every championship team, tier 3 team up until say semi-finals or finals. They in effect played maybe two
Bro,
competitive
guys,
teams.
you're not getting my point. My point is that in the FA Cup, you have to play. If I'm a tier 2 team, I will have to play a tier 1 team. There's no excuse. Now, if I play that tier 1 team in the first round, second round, third round, depends on my luck. It's got nothing to do with anything else. I am saying in the Europa League, there is no chance that a Europa League team is going to play a Champions League team in the new format. If that is the case, it is a lot
No,
easier to win the competition
Rahul, the whole point
versus
is not
previous
face.
years
But the
where you had to play Champions League teams.
But the whole
There's a
point is
big
not
difference.
facing the whole point is not facing Champions League teams is why you qualify for the Champions League. The whole point is you get an incentive of winning the Europa, which qualifies you saying,
Correct.
okay, you are.
My point is the path to that incentive was a lot harder in the
It
years
doesn't matter
past.
though.
Today
Like it
it's
doesn't
not.
matter. It is
Today it's
still
not.
tough. Now your whole logic is because United and Spurs are
It's a lot easier. If you're not playing
wait.
any
So
Champions League team, and they have more teams to compete with in the Champions
it
League,
is not
your
easier when you
path
look at
is a lot easier.
Bro, you're saying it's a lot easier right now, but
Yes,
at the end of the day, there is
it
still
is.
good teams playing in the UEL, for example. You're telling, okay, today when we are playing United versus Spurs, they had an easy run, but you look at it, they played Real Sociedad, who played UCL this year, if I'm not wrong, or last
We
year.
played a
No,
They
fourth
had,
place
you can't. That's the
Bilbao.
whole
We
point. That's
played a
exactly what I'm saying.
fifth or sixth
You
place.
sorry,
can't.
last year.
I mean,
Wait,
You
wait,
can't.
Leon.
wait. My
Yeah.
whole point is they played Real Sociedad, who were quarterfinalists last year, or round of 16
Yeah,
they
but
played. I'm
Adi, they're
sorry.
11th in the league this year. My point is they're poor teams in general.
Rahul, we
Rahul,
played a fourth place Bilbao. We played a fifth place or sixth place Leon. Tottenham played a third
okay.
place Frankfurt.
In the
Yeah,
semi.
exactly. Like right now, Frankfurt qualified for the whole point is Frankfurt are third in the Bundesliga. They qualified for the Champions League. You can't sit and say they're not good teams or good enough
Bilbao
teams
are
to play in the
playing the
Champions League
Champions League next
versus.
season. So
Hmm?
See, the
you're
whole
not you're
point
not
is
playing the grasshoppers, the Harry Potter FCs like this some conference league or something. There are very good teams in the Europa League.
Yeah, and I just think that this thing only comes from the sake of when your team is playing well and your team's in the
I
UCL. I
don't,
think
and I personally don't think. I think so. I think definitely there's a big difference. If you even
Rahul,
look
but
at,
Rahul, simply
like,
tell
I'm
what
just
is
me
giving you an
that's
example.
the
what is the incentive other than the cash price, which, let's be real, for the, like, not the financially okay teams, these cash prices are nominal. So other than the cash price, what is the incentive for competing in this Europa League?
I would say, for me, I would say there should be probably like a playoff or something like that. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's something they want to come up with in the future or something that they can think about.
Rahul, but
But I would
you're
say there
okay
should
with
be.
Are they not already the best?
I'm just giving you an example. Okay, so last year's Europa League final, Atlanta and Leverkusen, one team was the Bundesliga winners, and the other was playing well in
Yeah,
Italy,
but
and they've continued to
Bayer
do well this year.
Leverkusen were in the Europa League final because of their previous year's performance, not based on their this
But
year's.
that's what I'm saying. In general, right? Like, if you have what has happened in the years past, that even the good teams that are doing well in the league, whatever, it's of course it's based on previous season's performance, but they're doing well in the league that year. They drop down, and you have to play them because the Champions League is so tough. Like, you have to end up playing them in the Europa League, and when you win it from there, yeah, I would say, like, genuinely, like, fine, like, you would probably deserve a Europe Champions League spot next year. But now, where you don't have that kind of competition, you don't even have to deal with the Champions League teams. I'm sorry, but I just personally don't think a Champions League spot is
Rahul, but
warranted.
you're saying it from the perspective because United and Tottenham are playing. For
No, I'm
example,
not saying that's
one
exactly what I'm saying.
second,
I'm saying let's
one
look at it
second. But
objectively. I'm saying
if
let's look at it objectively without the fact that United and Spurs are playing this Champions League
no,
final,
with
this
I'm
Europa League
talking
final.
objectively also. If it was a
Yeah,
smaller team who fought through tooth and nail, as you said, like an FA Cup team. I forgot what the name. Bodo Gillett, the same team
yeah,
who beat
Bodo
a lot
Glimt,
of
yeah.
one second, who beat
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot
saying
of
I
teams
agree.
that were punching above their weight. They went through the Europa League. Let's say they were in the final today and they had to face United or Spurs, and they beat United and Spurs. I would say they deserve a chance in the UCL, and that's the whole point of Europa League. One second, the whole point of Europa League is to platform these so-called second-tier European teams into the Champions League, give them a shot. Today we're talking about it only because it's United and Spurs. It was another team who actually, went through a European journey and had a great journey. Like, let's say Frankfurt or someone else, like, just for example. I think it would merit them to play in the UCL because of the fact that you had a great journey in the Europa League, and that's the same factor of Crystal Palace, who went through the journey of winning the FA Cup, and they were rewarded with Europa League. Are we sitting and having a discussion saying
My whole point is I can't compare the FA Cup to the Europa
you
League because
can, Rahul? The
you
whole point
cannot,
is
because in the FA
how,
Cup, Adi, you have to play Manchester City in the final, and you have to
what is the
beat them.
difference between Bodo Glimt playing Ajax? What is the difference?
My point is, in Europe, if you're looking at it objectively, Man City is a tier one team in England playing
So
another tier one team in
are you
England.
saying all the tier one
In
teams play in UCL? Are you telling that?
Huh?
Are you saying Dinamo Zagreb is a tier one team in the UCL?
I'm saying in Europe, if
Exactly.
no, you're not even understanding what I'm saying. There is a
But you're
tier
saying,
one in Europe, there's a tier two in Europe. If the tier two in Europe is not playing any tier one teams and winning a competition, I don't see how they make a place in the tier one just
but
Because
what
like
they
is
that
are
tier one?
best
My
after the
point is,
competition,
revamped
what
Rahul.
is
version.
tier one? Why are you calling City a tier one? Like, what is the point of calling City tier one?
If
Why are you
brother,
calling it?
that is because in England they are a tier one team.
Exactly. So why are you telling United, Spurs, etc. not tier one teams? And for
What? I never
example,
said that. In Europe, they are not tier one. In Europe, they are
how?
tier two. The
How?
Europa League is a tier two competition. That's just how it is.
So that's my point. Are you saying Dinamo Zagreb is a tier one team? That's a simple question.
It depends on where you're playing. That's it.
Why are you just? It's
Yeah.
simple. Are you
Yeah,
Dinamo Zagreb?
I'm
Okay, wait.
answering. I literally
Okay,
answered. If you're
simple
playing in the
question.
Champions League, you're a tier one team. If you're playing in the Europa League,
Okay,
you're a tier two team. That's how it works. It's simple as
okay.
that.
So
Yeah.
So are you saying AC Milan are a tier one team this season?
In Europe, yeah.
Why? Because they're playing
Because
it,
they're
or
playing in
because
the
they're
Champions League.
performing
It's
to
as
a high
simple as
level?
that. Because they're in the Champions League.
So you're saying
If
if
you're
you're in the
objectively
They're
Champions
looking
not.
at it, that's
They're
how you
missing out
see
on
it.
Europe entirely next season, by the way, Rahul.
yeah. So my question is,
Okay. Okay.
wait.
That's
So
fine.
one second. My question is,
Yeah.
based on 2024, which they
Mhm.
performed well, and in 2023-2024, coming to 24-25 season, where
Mhm.
they've been poor, you're calling them a tier one team because they played well a year before, and they got awarded by playing Champions League.
Brother, I am
Are you
not
gonna,
making the rules. It is UEFA who says that it's a tier one
so
competition.
you're
It's not
calling
me
it,
who's saying it.
you're calling, wait, so you're telling You're a
Yeah,
tier
it's
one team.
objective. It's not up for debate. I don't understand how we're
It is
debating
up
this.
for debate, Rahul.
Okay.
Are you saying Ferrari is a tier one
Rahul,
and
the
winning
No,
very
a
I
tier
fact
don't. I
one
that
is
don't
not?
believe Ferrari at all.
Rahul, the very fact that we are discussing the legitimacy of UEL winners going and playing the Champions League is the debate, no?
I am
That means the
saying
whole thing is
no, no, no.
blown wide
One
open for
second.
debate.
It's not
Rahul, it's
objective.
simple.
That is
No,
the
no, no, no,
debate.
no.
I'm saying it is not. It is not. It is definitely objective and clear that the Champions League is a tier one competition in Europe and the Europa League is a tier two
Okay, Rahul,
competition.
can I ask
And
you
the
a simple
Conference League
question?
is a tier three
Wait, can I
competition.
ask you a
That's not
simple
up for
question?
debate. That's
Wait,
objectively facts.
okay. You're saying facts, right? So can we call Frankfurt an athletic club who are qualified for the Champions League a tier one team now?
I don't get your question. Like now you're saying for
You,
the next year. For next year.
no, 1 second. It's simple. You're telling if you're
That's what I'm
qualified and
saying.
playing
So
one
you're saying
second.
Frankfurt is qualified through the Bundesliga for the next Champions League.
Exactly. So are
So
we
they're
going
a
to call
tier one European team next year. Yeah.
why next year when they've qualified this season for UCL? Just because you're playing it next year, it doesn't mean you're a tier one club next season,
Bro, this is
Rahul.
what I'm saying. That's how it is. The format is such that
You're
if you
calling.
become a tier one European team next year, they're not a tier one European team right now because they're not playing the Champions League.
Okay, so my whole
I
point
can't
is.
call them a tier one
So
European
wait,
team.
wait, wait.
That's
Are
just
you
fact.
saying okay, let's give it a second go. Okay, like you're not agreeing that Frankfurt and Athletic Club, who have qualified for UCL this year, no, as a tier one team, you're not calling them because they are not qualified, right? So let's say another way. You're saying 32 teams, okay, in the top tier division, right? Europe UCL is a top tier division, right? Let's compare that to English Premier League, which is a top division, is what? Like you would say it is Premier League, right? Now, are you saying there should not be any relegation or any demotion of the bottom teams of Premier League because the top Premier League teams are playing? I mean, the bottom three are playing tier one teams, while the bottom half is playing teams which is 21st
Now
and
let me just, that's a good argument, fair enough. My point is here in the difference between Premier League and the Championship and European competition is that the Premier League and the Championship systems have stayed the same for all these years. Now, in the Europa League, I'm not saying that the Europa League winners should not get rewarded. I think, yeah, they should get rewarded because it is, at the end of the day, they are winners. That's why I'm saying, like, maybe they should devise a playoff system. But for the change in format that has occurred and the fact that the Europa League path is a lot easier, I don't think you deserve a direct spot in the Champions League. I think you have to do a little more than that. There
yeah,
is
but you're winning
already
an
no
entire
one second.
league,
Just
Rahul.
give
That's
me a sec.
not as
Just give me a
easy
sec.
as you
Just
talk.
give me a sec.
It's not as easy as you
Adi,
talk,
listen, give
though.
me a second. In the difference again in the championship Premier League scenario is that the championship there is only one route. You have to win the championship. In for the teams in the Europa League, there is another route. You can do well in your league and secure a Champions League spot.
Yeah, but in the
You
championship
can. There
also
are
there's a
two
second.
routes. So
Even in
if you're
championship there are two routes. You can
your
either qualify
second
top two or
winning a
play
Europa
playoffs.
one sec. The Europa League is always a second route. If your second route can, when it's becoming a lot easier, I think that there has to be a little more that you have to do to secure a Champions League spot.
But
In the
Rahul,
Championship Premier League case, there is only one route. You have to win the championship or you have to win the playoffs. There's no other way.
yeah, there are two ways. Exactly, there are two
It's the
ways. You
same
can come sixth.
competition. It's the
No,
same
but you can come.
competition.
Rahul, you
It's
can
the
come
same
sixth.
competition. There
But
is
you're
no
saying
other way you can
you're
get it. You
saying
can't
there's
win
only
the FA
one
Cup and
way.
come to the Premier League. You can't
Rahul,
win the Carabao Cup and come to the Premier League. Here you have two different routes. It's
how?
not only the Europa League. You can do well in your own league and come to the Champions League.
So, but you're discrediting the fact that winning a Europa League is very tough. Secondly, even winning your league or coming top
I'm
four
not
in.
discrediting the fact that winning a Europa League is tough. I'm just saying it has become a lot easier now.
So are you saying coming fifth versus, let's say United came sixth and Villa came fifth and it was a difference of 1 point.
Okay.
And we know till now it's top four is what gets you UCL. Now, are you saying top five is fine because suddenly the rules are changed? And that's why top five is fine today. But my point is it depends on the rules. You're saying top four was fine till like last year. Today, top five is fine because it helps you qualify easier way. So are you calling that, equal to the fact of, okay, bro, like winning a UCL or UEL is tougher, because I mean, sorry, like the whole point is top five is what we have now. Before it used to be top four. Rules
Okay.
have changed. You're saying the rules are now it's top five, so it's fine. The whole point is why is it fine for top five to be fine, but winning a UEL, which is very tough to do. I don't think every team can do. Today we are having that conversation because it's United and Spurs. But for example, let's say a team like Bodo Glimt, who are punching above their weight, who are going against bro, like even UEL, you are a big team. You have big budgets like United, Spurs, even Athletic Bilbao. like
Okay,
so
Adi,
they
tell me
all
the
have
last
money.
time a small team like Bodo Glimt won it. Europa
Huh?
League. When was the last time a team like Bodo Glimt won it?
I think Atlanta winning last year showed it because
Atlanta
Atlanta.
not. No, but you speak to fans in Italy, they will tell you Atlanta is a big team.
Rahul, are you crazy?
Rahul,
Are you
Atlanta
I'm
is
actually?
telling
not.
you facts.
Are
I'm
you
literally
call?
telling you
Wait, wait,
facts.
wait, 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 wait. 1 second, one
Oh,
second,
in the
one second,
last few years,
Rahul,
it's like
one
Atlanta.
second,
you're
one
comparing
second.
Bodo Glimt to Atlanta, which is a team that is third in Serie A right now and only 5 points off the top of the league. How are you doing that?
Wait, wait, wait. Are you saying Atlanta, who
Yes,
are going
yes,
against teams like AC Milan, Inter Milan,
yes.
Juventus, who have all the money, and look at how
Okay.
Atlanta spend. They don't have the money to spend like the way they spend. Secondly, they're not a big club because you look at Atlanta's history, till now they
I'm
never
not
qualified.
talking about in terms of history. I'm talking about in terms of performance. Atlanta are
How
doing well in
they
general in the Serie
qualified
A.
for the UCL in the
It's
past
not a.
three,
It's
4
not
years.
a. It didn't just randomly happen that they won the Europa League. They finished fourth in Serie A last year. They're third in Serie A this year.
Yeah,
It's
Rahul, you're
not a
talking about.
miracle that they won. Like
It
they've
is a
been doing
miracle
well.
that they
No,
won
they
because
have
they
been
went.
doing well. You're
Rahul, you're
discrediting
saying
the
that.
fact
Wait,
that
wait,
they
wait.
have been a club that has always been around the top four. In
Since
2022,
when? Can you tell
they
me
were
since
fifth.
when?
In
Can you tell me
2022,
since
they were
when?
fifth. In 2023, they were. I mean, 2022-23, they were fifth, then fourth, then third, and they won the Europa League. That's not a. It's not a miracle. They've been
Is
doing well consistently. It's a good club.
Rahul, Rahul, you're not
Yeah,
understanding the point. You're calling Atlanta a big club suddenly today.
I'm
But
not
you look
saying
at,
I'm not calling Atalanta a big club suddenly today. I'm
you
saying
asked me, tell me a
they have
club
been
that hasn't ever
consistently.
won.
I said they've been consistently doing well. So them winning the Europa League is not a surprise.
It is a surprise, Rahul. They've never
Okay,
had a European pedigree. That was the first European trophy ever.
fine. That's okay. That the fact that they've won their first European trophy is a big thing. I agree. But I'm saying that it's not a surprise that it's not like they're 11th or 12th in the Serie A and they've won like they fought
You
their way
can't,
completely in the Europa League and
but
they
you
won it.
can't be like 11th and 12th and play Europa League, right?
Clearly, you can. No,
How?
United and Spurs are doing it right
Yeah,
now.
but they finished top six last year. That's why they're playing wherever they are this year.
Bro, that my point is in the same season, it's not like Atlanta were dying. They have not been doing
So you're
well, and then
calling
suddenly they
United
won.
and Spurs a small team now. Are you saying that like
I never said that. I don't
you're
know
telling
what you're saying. I
no,
never
you're
said United
telling
and Spurs
wait,
are a
wait, you
small team.
because you just told now if your league
Dude,
position
okay,
is
I'll
still
stop making like random arguments. United and Spurs. Let's
Rahul,
talk about the facts. Let's talk
wait, the
about the
fact is you're
facts.
telling that if you're struggling the
Let's
league.
talk about the argument at hand, which is,
So,
dude,
okay,
United
simple.
and
You're
Spurs
saying,
have to go to the
okay, I'm
Champions League.
taking the Atlanta example. You said if
Yeah, that was
Atlanta are struggling in Serie A, playing 12th, 13th, and then winning the Europa League is a miracle for you, why is this not the same miracle when, uh, Spurs beat the team that's top three
I
in
gave you the
Bundesliga?
reason. I gave you the reason. The reason is simple. It is that in the last season, in the last Europa League, you had teams falling from the Champions League. You had to beat them. Here you don't. And you had 32 teams last year in the Champions League. This year you have 36. So that's four lesser teams for you to compete with in Europe. And you don't have the Champions League teams to compete with. It's a difference. Big
You can
difference.
say it's a huge difference, Rahul, but the difference is only because you're saying, the top 32 teams, you're not good enough. You come down to the Europa League. So are you saying a UCL, okay, let's say the same thing, okay? A UCL winner comes down to the Europa League. He performed bad in UCL. He's, let's say, 15th in the Europa League. I mean, sorry, in his own league, and he got dropped from the UCL. Now he goes and wins the UEL. Would you say he deserves it because, oh yeah, he won the UEL, but he struggled in the UCL, which he couldn't hack, and the same team couldn't play well in the league, but because they won the UAL today, it's easy for them to qualify. The whole point is you're telling the reason any team from Europa League shouldn't qualify. The simple fact is because UCL teams are not dropping down. But the fact is the same thing as relegation. The fact is the same thing as everything. Like if you're not performing well in the UCL, you can always come back down. The whole point is if a team plays the thing is with European teams, it is we know how it is. It's a division of 32 teams, 36 teams now, then 36 teams in Europa League. I think it's 36 teams in conference. I'm not well versed with it. But the whole point is we're not talking about winner of Conference League plays Europa League. Like that's conversation is not happening right now. The same thing when West Ham won the Europa League, Conference League and qualified for the Europa League. Nobody had a problem with that. That time we are okay with platforming it. But when we are talking about, second tier coming to tier one, it's a big issue because we're talking like, okay, any team that wins Europa League is not equivalent to winning or like even coming last to like UCL. I don't agree with the fact that coming last in UCL versus coming first in Europa League is a huge difference. I don't really think so. For example, do I think the team that comes last in UCL will win the Europa League the same way we're talking right now? I don't think so. top four, let's say the bottom four teams who finish this year
Yeah,
in
and the
UCL.
last team doesn't get dropped anyways. It was the third place teams in groups that used to get dropped.
No, I'm saying right now, if you look at objectively, the bottom four teams of UCL, are you going to sit here and say, yeah, they are sure favorites to win the Europa League because they play Champions League and they
They're
tier
never
one?
going to. My point is, they're
You
never
can't
dropping
have that
anyways. They are
conversation.
not going to drop anyways. So that's a redundant conversation.
It is redundant now, but my whole point is you're saying because a team like United didn't play teams like Dinamo Zagreb, Shakhtar Donetsk, you're saying they're tier one teams because they're in the UCL because they have, let's be real, winning a Ukraine league or winning a Russian league or winning those leagues are easier than playing in the Premier League. So you have to put in more context if you really want to talk about quality of leagues. If you're going to tell quality of Europa League's bad versus quality of UCL's good, and you're telling you have to put in quality of everything, then shouldn't it be the top five nations should play UCL directly? Why are we involving teams that really don't play well in the UCL? Like, are you saying Shakhtar Donetsk had a good year this year? Because what's the point of having them? Like, what's the point of having Copenhagen? They're not quality teams compared to the you tier one teams, right? If you really want tier one teams, today can we sit here and say, like, United or Spurs can't compete and beat them? Like, theoretically, you can beat them. Yeah, sure, you might have bad UCL captains. Like, that's what happened last year also. But the whole point is it's just a platform. Like today, we're telling it's because it's United and Spurs. That's my point. If today a Bodo Glimt beat teams like Ajax, like that's the thing. If you think a team like Bodo Glimt who beat Ajax, who are punching above their weight, like who
Yeah,
if they
they
beat
are.
United,
I agree.
if they beat Spurs, and they were there in the finals today, I think they would deserve to play in the UCL. Let's see how their UCL run goes. Like you have different paths to come to the UCL. It's fine.
So my only point
Coming fifth
is,
in the league for me, coming fifth in the league is more unfair than winning the Europa League and going to the UCL. In my personal opinion, I think that's more fair. I think winning a if you really want to talk about extra spot, I think let's take our top five spots and give that to the UEL winner. I think winning a UEL versus coming top five,
yeah,
I
but
think.
that top five spot thing changes. It's not like it's a fixed thing. It's based on
Yeah, but
UEFA
yeah, but
coefficients.
you,
Like
That
you're
has nothing to do with XYZ club. Like, dude, like right now as it stands, Chelsea are going to stand to qualify for the UCL despite finishing fifth. Now, what have they done differently to earn a place in the Champions League?
till
They are
last
playing
year
the
it was right.
like, yeah, exactly. They were playing they're going to play the Conference League finals. So as things like technically speaking, as per history, they should be playing. If they win, they should be playing the Europa League. Why are they getting an extra Champions League spot just because of UEFA or credits and rankings, which has nothing to do with them?
okay, are you so you're saying that a team that is sitting with 39 points is more deserving than a team sitting with
Yeah,
66
but
points in the league?
you're talking with context of today, but we're telling context of overall. If a
I'm
team
just
like
saying in
Bodo
general.
Glimt,
Like I'm just saying, if see the point of the
but
coefficient,
you're not taking in
the
the worth of
coefficient we
winning the
can't.
UEL is top.
Unfortunately, it's not something that
Now,
is.
it's a simple question. If UEL
It's
winning
not. I'm
UEL is so
saying,
easy,
bro. For me, if it was Premier League top four, also, I don't care. I don't. That's not the argument. Even if it's just top four in the Premier League is fine. Like it's not like I have a problem with top four, top five. It doesn't matter. My point is, I'm talking about the new Europa League format, which is completely different, and it is unfortunately a lot easier. And
it
I
is
just see
a
that
lot easier now in Premier League also. You can have an off season, come fifth, and still qualify. Like example, 2 years
the
ago when
format
Arsenal.
has not changed for the Premier League. It's the same.
No, but that's my
You're playing
point.
the
For
same
example,
teams.
I'll just take you down memory lane. 3 years ago, when Arsenal
Okay.
finished fifth,
Okay.
behind Spurs,
Hmm.
they went to Europa League. The same fifth position today, if you finish, you're going to the UCL. So it's not the same thing as saying, finishing fifth last year till to
Adi,
this year.
yeah, but
It's the same
it's a
competition. Sure, it's the same competition. But finishing fifth till last year, you
okay.
would go to Europa League directly. But this year, a Europa League team, which you should be a Europa League team technically,
Yeah.
that Europa League team is in the UCL because UEFA decided to change rules suddenly. So the whole point you're saying is UEL, which fifth position, you're a UEL team. Let's keep it real. If you're finishing fifth in any league, you are called a Europa League till last year. Europa League team till last year. Let's say even this year, for example, if Arsenal didn't perform well in the UCL, let's say they didn't qualify to the semis and they lost, it would have been a top four race. So are you going to say the team that finished fifth this season deserves it because Arsenal played well in the UCL, because Liverpool played well in the UCL? I don't think that makes sense because the whole fact is you finishing fifth this year, you get Europa League. Who finished fifth last year? Was it Man United, if I'm not wrong? I think it was Manchester United who finished fifth last year, right? No, I don't even think it was United.
No, that was not
Who
United.
finished? I think it was Tottenham. Yeah, it was Tottenham. I remember because they lost to City in that team. So are you saying the same team that finished fifth last year, Tottenham, deserves to be in UCL this year? Like because they finished fifth last year, but this year they don't finish fifth.
I think
You
that's my point. Is that's a completely different debate. It's a different it's a
Yeah,
conversation that
but you're
is
telling
completely
that,
different.
but you're talking about quality. But my point is, you're
That
saying
the only reason
you're
that has
saying
come up.
usual quality is top prime tier best teams in the Europe are playing. But the reality, it's not that. The reality is even a fifth place.
I never said that the 36 best teams in Europe are playing. I'm just saying it is objectively tier one competition as
Exactly. So
per
you call.
UEFA. I am not saying that the 36 best teams. I don't think that the best team in Norway is going to beat. I don't know, like top fifth place or sixth place Premier League team. I don't think that's the case. I'm
Yeah.
saying as the way the competition works, it works in such a way that this is objectively tier one of Europe. I'm not saying that they're better than Europa League teams or whatever. I'm just simply saying that if you're winning the Europa League today, it's just a lot easier than before. The whole Europa UCL competition, it's the same you can have the same conversation for
How,
last year.
Rahul, but
It's not
my
like the
question,
it's not like
Rahul, my
every
question.
it's not like every
But
Champions League team is going to beat every
see,
Europa League
this
team.
is
That's
where
not
I
the
don't
case.
see. I don't accept with this thing of you saying winning Europa League is easier now. Actually, it is not easier now. If you're in the
Huh?
Europa League, I'll tell you. Let me finish. You have to understand the difference. We are
Okay.
talking about Europa League. What does Europa League consist of? Tier two teams in Europe, right? That's what Europa League is. It's not. It is not like a UCL team is playing Europa League, and that's why it's easy to win. If you're a tier two team in Europe, it's still equally tough for you to win in a tier two league because you're equivalent to a tier two team in Europe. Like it's the same thing as winning.
Okay. How is it
Anytime
tougher?
you're winning a UCL is equivalently tough for like a Europa League team to win
No, but
that
how
because
is it tougher to win the Europa League now?
Rahul, are you saying, dude, that's the thing because you're a tier two team. You're Rahul. It's like
No, how
saying
is it tougher than before? You just said it's tougher.
I'm saying it's a equal. It's the same thing. You're saying it's easier. I'm saying it's not
I
easier.
am
You're
saying it's
talking
easier. You
because
just said
why?
it's tougher.
Why you say why is it easier?
I've told you the same thing 300 times.
What?
Bro, we're going in circles. One
No,
second.
why is it easier? I'm just
I said
asking
it
you.
300 times that you don't have to play the Champions League teams. There are fewer teams to compete with because for more teams go to the Champions League. For example, like you said, if the team that finishes fifth in the Premier League this year will not be playing the Europa League next year. So it is going to be easier. You're not going to have to play the fifth best team in England, which is going to be a good team. So it is
Exactly.
going
But
to be
the
easier
logic
to win the
is,
Europa League.
but my your logic is you don't see your whole basis. You're saying UCL teams
Yes.
don't play in Europa League. It's easier to win Europa League because of that. So the winner of
Yes,
Europa
it
League,
is.
wait. So the winner of Europa League shouldn't go
Yeah.
to the UCL. The same, my same logic. You're saying a Europa League team is a team that finishes fifth, but to this year, because a Europa League team is getting UCL spot because another team called Arsenal qualified and played well in Europe. So Europa League team is playing UCL because of Arsenal.
So I
So are
am
you
saying objectively that's a different conversation to have. I'm not saying I
objectively the
agree or
same
disagree with
question?
the UEFA
Objectively,
coefficients ruling. That is
no,
completely different. I'm saying
but you
today this is the scenario.
it is the
Unfortunately,
same.
the way they decided it, this is what it is.
It is the same scenario, Rahul. You're saying you don't want undeserved spots in the UCL. You're saying winning a Europa League is undeserved for you
I'm
to
saying
wait.
objectively the way the competition was, it's easier to win today. I think there should be one more layer in terms
Why
of
is
the
it easier to
qualification
win
for the
today?
Champions League.
Are you
So
saying
also,
I've
how are
said
you,
it 300
Rahul,
times
how
and
are
asked
you
no,
very
wait,
similar
readily,
wait, wait. Are
questions.
you saying a team
Rahul,
like
how are you readily accepting the fact that UEFA coefficient got increased for Premier League and
exactly?
now Chelsea is okay? But I'm sure now if say United or
I'm
Tottenham
not
were
agreeing. Did
fifth,
I? I never said that I agree or disagree with that.
but we are not seeming to have an issue with that at all. Like everyone's just like not just
We
you.
can
I'm
have
saying
another
like
episode on
in
that. We can
Okay,
no,
have
no, no.
okay,
another
I'm
Rahul.
episode
saying
and discuss that.
the discourse, the entire online discourse, yeah, like from pundits XYZ, not one person has spoken about the UEFA coefficient as much as they're being spoken about the Europa League finalists getting, like the Europa League
Exactly.
winners getting. Like it
Okay.
is simply like again, if say a United or say an Arsenal or a Tottenham were to finish fifth, and this year they bring about the change, the discourse is going to be the exact
Bro, I
same thing.
agree. I am not saying that it is the media attention to this has increased because it's United and Spurs. I think so too. Like I said
Rahul, it's simple.
initially,
Let's
it's
keep
a
it
case
like
of
this.
yeah.
Do you agree with a team coming fifth place in Premier League deserve a UCL spot?
Bro, that has got nothing to do with this conversation. That's what I'm
I'm
saying.
asking you. I'm
It's a
asking your
completely
opinion.
different
I'm not talking.
conversation.
1 second.
It's a
Are you?
completely different conversation.
It's fine. I'm asking you
Yeah.
simply. if a team finished fifth this season, do you think they deserve a UCL spot? It's just I'm asking
I
your
think
perspective. I'm not.
I genuinely think that's a very tricky question to answer because in general, what has happened is there have been 32 teams in the Champions League. They added 4 more teams. How are you giving those 4 extra spots? They had to decide a way. And they looked at this being the most reasonable way as to
Rahul,
the best performing leagues in
but
Europe.
but
And
that's the problem.
I can't say that's objectively wrong. Like I
Why?
don't know if they're adding 4 more teams, I don't know how else they're going to do it. They
So
will have
that's
to
my
give an extra spot,
question.
right? They will
Exactly
have to
what
give
I'm trying
extra
to say.
spots.
But that's what I'm trying to respond you with.
Mhm.
Same thing if the same premise was taken last year, where fifth team finishes in the UCL, you would have been having Spurs in the UCL. My whole point is it's easy to. The whole point is every year it changes, like fifth comes or not, because on the basis of another team playing well in UCL, not because of your own efforts in the league. It doesn't count to anything. Like, do you think that? I think last season was tougher to play in the league than this season, for example. I think last season coming fifth was a bit tougher than this season to come in fifth, for example. So you can't tell because Arsenal played well this year in the UCL. A team that comes fifth gets an extra UCL spot. I don't think that logically is even more flawed, in my opinion.
Okay, I have. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't agree or disagree with it. I think
No,
whatever. Like,
listen to
I don't have an
simple.
opinion on it.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
my simple question is, do you think a team that finishes fifth deserves a UCL spot? Like, it's simple.
I'm telling you, I don't have an answer for that.
Oh,
What?
what do you think? Do you think a team that finishes fifth deserves it? Like, it's simple as that.
I don't know because at the end of the day, how do you decide UEFA coefficient? It is based on the performances of teams
So
from
you're
that league.
saying, okay, so my point is you're saying,
I don't think that's right. I can't. I genuinely don't think that's right or wrong. Like I
okay,
don't
so
know why.
your point is there's a UOPA coefficient that allows this to happen and you're okay with it,
I don't
right?
know if I'm okay with it. I've already said that to you.
So we have the facts laid down. So why don't you realize like, okay, this is what we have. On based on this, do you think top five deserves a spot in
I'm
USL?
literally saying I don't know if I think it's right or wrong.
So you're okay with that is
Or
the question.
Rahul,
I'm
the
not
fact
saying
that
I'm okay with it.
a 12th place Premier League team is going to play the tier 2 European competition, is going to play with the likes of a 6th place or a 7th place Premier League team. How are you okay with that?
Sorry, I didn't get that. What?
A 12th place Premier League team this year is going to play with your Aston Villas, with your Nottingham Forest, with your Atlantas,
Okay, I've already
Lazio,
explained that
AC
to you. The
Milan.
fact is, in Crystal Palace's case, you're beating Manchester City. You're beating the top teams in the top
That
division
could have
of
been
England.
anyone, Rahul.
Huh?
That could have been anyone. That is entirely luck based.
Exactly. So Rahul,
Okay, yeah. My
for
point is
example,
okay.
On
One
their
second.
day,
Just give
Crystal
me a
Palace
second.
could have played
Are
Charlton
you saying,
Athletic.
Rishi? Are you saying if I'm a tier two team, I'm a championship team, I will never have to play a Premier League team? You obviously have to play a Premier League team at some point.
Not
Rahul, but your
necessarily.
whole logic is flawed though. Wait, my point is a Premier League team can play championship team, come to the FA Cup final, and then win the FA Cup final and then go. That's
But
what.
inevitably,
Exactly.
they will also play a Premier League team. That's the point.
So are you saying playing a bottom half Premier League team is equivalent to playing like another team from championship a
I don't
championship?
think it's. I don't think it's. I don't think it's the same.
Yeah, exactly. But the whole
So
point is
I
the
am saying,
same.
but I'm saying objectively, when you're looking at it as a
Rahul, now
competition,
assume
it's a
Crystal
tier
Palace
one.
had
It's
gone on to
tier one.
play championship teams or tier the League One teams until the semi-finals and the finals. And in the finals, they end up playing, say, Ipswich Town. They are still playing teams that are lesser than, like, much lower in the table than them. So now what will you say? Okay, they're playing all the bad teams in much lower divisions or are in relegation zones, so they don't deserve to play in a tier 2 European competition. Are you going to say that?
No, okay. Can I give you?
You're
Okay,
not
I'll
getting
just
my
give.
point. My point is, at the end of the day, Crystal Palace are playing like whatever in the quarters, semis, and finals. They're playing teams that are tier one English teams. They played Aston
Not
Villa.
that is entirely luck
They played
based. That is what I've been saying, Rahul.
Rishi. In
Teams
which
like
FA
City
Cup
have
are you?
come
Have you seen?
playing your Charlton Athletics, playing your Coventry Cities, playing your
Okay, okay,
Grimsby
wait,
Town,
Okay,
all these
Rishi.
wait,
guys.
wait,
When
wait.
have you seen a championship team in the last few whatever 10, 15 years in the final of an FA Cup? When have you seen it?
Yeah, the
Tell me
odds are
one.
pretty less.
Yeah, no. Obviously, the odds are less because you're playing
But that
tier one
that is
teams.
still
I
that
think
is still
Aston Villa, right? If I'm not wrong, because I think
When
they got relegated that season when Arsenal played them.
I'm
If I'm
saying
not wrong.
Adi, in that year, if you're a Premier League team, okay, what are the odds? I mean, if you're a championship team in that year, when did they make it to? When did a championship team of that season make it to
when Arsenal played
the
Hull
FA Cup
City in the
final?
final. Was Hull City a Premier League team?
They were a
They
Premier
were a
League.
Premier League team. Wait. Regardless, okay. Wait. Rahul, simple question. Do you think a team that finishes 7th in the league versus a team that finishes 19th in the league or 18th in the league or 17th in the league deserve to play Europa League because they won an FA Cup? It's simple.
Yeah, I think so.
And on what basis?
Because of the fact that you play the best teams in England, you have to
You're
play
telling
also the
you
best
play
teams
the
in
best
England.
team, but what if they go through the entire FA Cup where they've not played any of the best teams and they win the.
It doesn't happen. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what
It
I'm saying.
can happen, Rahul.
Objectively, it has always been the case in the FA Cup that by the time you make it to the quarters or semis, you have to play good teams. That's just impossible for you to just walk through the competition. It doesn't happen.
So you're saying
Yeah.
Crystal Palace this year, where they
Yes.
played teams like Fulham. Let me just put it out, okay? They played
Okay.
Stockport
Put it
City
out.
in the first round
Okay.
of their own round,
Third
then
round. Yeah.
Doncaster Rovers, then
Okay.
Millwall, then they
Yeah.
played Fulham, and then they played Crystal Palace, and then they played City. So you're seeing because they
Yeah.
won these 2-3 games and they
Yes.
performed terribly in the league. Let's say coming 12th is not even in the top half. You're saying just
Okay.
because they played good in 2-3 games, it's not. I'll tell you why. Europa League is even more tough because you're playing 8 teams, then you're playing two teams, right? So
Okay.
it's actually a tougher and a longer route go to win the Europa League. Versus this thing where you can luck out your first 4-5 rounds. Obviously, semi-finals, finals, you're going to play the top 4 teams in the league. We all know that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you're also going to play the top 4 teams in Europa League. You're going to play top 4 teams in any of their competitions.
Bro, you're exactly my point is the fact that in the FA Cup, it is every division plays. You can play any division. In the
Rahul, it's
Europa
simple.
League, it is
No,
the
that's not
tier
my
two of
point.
Europe.
Are you
You're
saying
only playing
it's not
those
my point?
teams now.
That's not my
You're
point. Are you saying
before it was not the case. Before you had tier one teams in Europe dropping down and you had to play them. Now you don't do that. So it's not the FA
Rahul,
Cup equivalent. It is
that's
not.
not the point, though. My point is, do you think Nottingham Forest this year, who's going to most likely finish 7th, let's just say at least that's how the table looks, who
Okay.
played the top teams, beat the champions of England this year, let's say 1-0. They do
Sorry,
them to
Nottingham
they beat the
Forest.
Nottingham Forest beats the champions of England.
Okay.
Let's look at it like that. At home in the Premier League, consistently played above what they should be playing in the Premier League. Finishing 7th, they could have gone to the UCL, but now they're finishing 7th. Versus a team like Crystal Palace, who played 3 rounds. They played teams in the second division, third division of in the English League. Are you saying the Crystal Palace deserve it because they won an FA Cup where they faced 3 of the Premier League teams and then 3 of the second division, third division teams versus a team like Nottingham Forest who played every of the top teams twice this season? Are you saying the FA Cup worth is more because you won an FA Cup now, or because even Nottingham
No,
Forest?
I think the FA Cup conversation is because that they want to give something for the FA Cup, like they want an incentive for it.
Exactly. Now we came to
And
the
that's what
So
I'm
what
point.
is
saying.
the
I don't think
incentive
the
for the
Europa League. I
Europa
don't think
League
the
winners,
Europa League
Rahul?
should not have an incentive. I've agreed. I told you. I
Huh?
think there should be a playoff after that. I don't think
No,
it
but
should
the
be
whole
worthless winning the
point is
Europa
you're
League.
saying, Rahul, your whole point is winning an FA Cup is an incentive now. It is not because of merit. It's not because you're
It is
played in the
also
top teams.
merited. Of course, if you beat three of your
It,
own teams, three teams
it's simple.
in the top division of England, and not lose any of them, you are merited. Like, of course, you're
Now, are
merited.
you saying, that's my
If
question.
you
Are
have
you
gone
saying,
6 games or 7 games without losing a single game, you are merited. Of course, you are
Rahul,
merited.
that's the simple question. Are you saying
Yeah,
Crystal Palace FA Cup win versus what Nottingham Forest did? Are you saying Crystal Palace deserves Europa League more than Nottingham Forest? It's a simple question.
yeah. Unfortunately, the way the structure is, yes.
No, I'm not talking about structure. You're using it in the structure. You're saying because FA Cup winners deserve it, they deserve it. I'm saying you objectively looking at these 2 teams in the season. Crystal
Objectively,
Palace,
objectively, I would still say like I think Forest would deserve it a little more. But
exactly. We were
the
talking
way the
about this
structure is,
objectively, right?
but I cannot take away from the way that the Palace have gone about it and they beat Man City in the
Yeah,
semis.
exactly.
I
Rahul,
can't
so
say I
that's
can't
my
say no. Yeah,
Rahul, that's my same point. Okay. So for example, one more thing. Let's say let's say they didn't face City and let's say they didn't face what City and who did
bro.
they
The
face in
thing
the
is, we can
semifinals?
say that. Let's say they didn't, but they did,
My whole
and
point is you can,
it
for
happens very
example,
rarely that a team does not.
now, last year, for example, I
Yes.
don't think what do you call that? United faced any team until the finals. They didn't face any team in the who are playing Europa League, who are playing UCL. They won the FA Cup regardless. Now, are you saying okay, winning the FA Cup? That's the reason they're playing Europa League this season. Let's just keep it real. If you think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
so you're saying they don't deserve to play in UCL because They won the UEL, but they won the FA Cup, and that's why they played the UEL. So, are you not having the conversation of FA Cup winners don't deserve UEL spot because of the same reason? They didn't face any Europa League player.
I'm agreeing with you. I genuinely think the league is the best way to decide anything. But the fact
Exactly.
that there is a competition in England and the structure is such that they want to
It's not only
reward it
England; it's every top
everywhere,
five.
everywhere. That's what I'm saying. There is a cup competition and they want to reward the cup winners. And unfortunately, that is just how it is. Like I'm
Yeah,
not going to sit and
and for why are
beat
they
the
not taking the
ground
same
for
logic
that.
with Europa League?
No,
Why are
it
they
is
not?
not, because I told you why. Because in Europa League, you don't play UCL teams now anymore.
Rahul,
It's a
even in the
different
FA Cup,
story.
you don't have to play Europa League teams to qualify for Europa League. Like, is Crystal Palace facing Europa League teams? They're
Bro,
not. They're
but they're
facing
coming
third
from
division teams.
different avenues. Here, you're Europe to Europe. Here, it's your domestic competition to
Rahul,
Europe. It's a different story.
objectively, do you think finishing sixth in Premier League versus winning an FA Cup, where you beat three of the teams that are in third division, second division, is equivalent? It's as simple as that. It is not.
I have
But
literally
you're
said I think the league is better. I think
exactly, but
UCL is
you're okay with
domestic.
one thing, but you're not okay with the other thing. That's the
How?
whole dynamic.
What?
You're saying it's okay to incentivize FA Cup winners because they're going to face City, United, Arsenal, Liverpool, whatever. So that's
Yes.
why it's okay. But Nottingham faced Liverpool, United, City, all the Europe UCL teams four times into two. Now five times into two, which is 10 games, right?
They're different
Nottingham
competitions, Adi. Like I can't help it. Objectively, I can't see the FA Cup
objectively you
and
can
the Premier League. I'll compare the two. That
now
objectively
it's
different
simple.
competitions.
No,
They're
no, but
different formats. I cannot help. I can't
dude,
compare them.
you can compare them. Are you saying coming sixth in the league where you have to beat the UCL winners or the top four teams, the top five teams of England, two times in an entire league season, which is you have to face them 10 times. This season, Nottingham Forest had to face UCL player teams 8 times, right? Versus how
Okay.
many times did Crystal Palace face any
So is
UCL
it
winner,
Crystal Palace is
Europa
not
League
playing
team?
the Champions League?
Huh?
Crystal Palace are not playing the Champions League.
Hey, let me finish. How many times did Crystal Palace have to face a Europa League team in the FA Cup? Can you answer me that?
How many times have they played Europa League team? What is
Yeah,
that
how
got
many
to do
times,
with anything?
brother? They're facing third division teams, and you're saying it's okay because they're facing City. But my
I
whole
am
point is
saying
not.
it's okay because that's just how the competition is. I am not going to go and be like, no, the FA Cup, ban the FA Cup, remove the FA Cup because
No,
it's not merited
you
or
can win
whatever.
the FA Cup and
But you're
still
saying the
finish in
same thing
the.
about Europa League. You're
Yeah,
saying change the
I
rule.
exactly.
am literally saying I think there should be incentive for Europa League winners. I just don't think it's the same as it was objectively before. Rishi, if you asked me the same question 2 years ago, I would say yes. I think Europa League winners should go to the Champions League. I'm saying now the fact that the competition has changed, it's a lot easier to win it. I think there should be one extra layer for them to cross. I'm not saying
But
that there should be no incentive.
now it's
You're,
also
you're
easier to win an FA Cup over Europa League. Like that's my point.
Bro, I don't know why you're getting the FA Cup into this in the first place. I'm saying
The whole
objectively look at it. Objectively is the
yeah,
Euro.
I'm trying to look at it
Okay, Rishi.
objectively
Okay,
and
one
telling
second.
you.
Let me just ask Rishi. Rishi, bro. Objectively, is the Europa League easier right now than it was a year ago? Yes or no?
You can't definitely say it
Wow.
You
because
can't. That's
United,
true.
Okay, fine, fine,
Rahul,
fine,
we
fine.
are
Then,
we
then that's what I'm saying. If you're saying that, then there's no we have no
because
conversation,
Rahul,
right?
it's
I
not a
objectively
simple
think it's
case of
easier. You guys
Rahul,
think it's
are you
easier.
saying
Adi doesn't
wait,
think
wait,
it's easier.
wait,
That's the
Rahul,
issue.
are you saying
Like the thing is, you can name probably 3 or 4 clubs in Europe who you can say are considerably consistently good. You see, Frankfurt weren't as good as they were last season, but I mean, they are better off this season. They're third in the table and they're playing Europa League. Athletic Bilbao are fourth in the La Liga table. They're playing Europa League. So, can I sit and definitely say that okay,
exactly?
it is much easier? No, it is entirely dependent on luck. A team can go on a crazy run, have a great
Yeah,
league
Rishi.
season,
Of
have a
course, it
great
is
domestic season.
circumstantial. Of course, some things are
Yeah. So
circumstantial.
so
But
how say?
how can you not see that it is
How can
easier?
you objectively ask a circumstantial question and how can you ask a circumstantial question and expect me to answer it
No, I
objectively?
don't think it is completely circumstantial. Like my point is, if you look at facts and evidence, like in the years past, the point is that even like teams that are doing well, very well in their leagues, drop down from the UCL, and then it becomes harder to beat them. Here, you don't do that. And now, like because of the way the coefficient works, now for example, the Premier League, you have an extra team going to the Champions League already, so you don't have to play the top 5 teams in England anyways.
So Rahul, can I
So
ask
it
you a
is
question?
objectively easier.
So are you saying okay, this let's objectively look at this season. We are talking about Europa League, UCL this season. You're saying United Spurs finishing 17th and 16th this season and they can still qualify for the UCL based on this season's form, is only pure because of UEFA letting Europa League winners go to the UCL, right? Simple question. So are you saying based on this season, if a team beats a team like Milan, who was ninth in Serie A, eighth in Serie A, versus let's say a UCL team beating AC Milan, who was eighth this season in the league, versus United, let's say Spurs beat the third best German team this season. Who would you think has who do you think is a tougher team to beat? Are you saying beating AC Milan is lesser now because they're eighth this season, but because they're a UCL team based on their last year's performance, they're still a top tier one team? That's the point. You can't be objectively saying, bro, they're a best team because they won. Like, let's say
I'm not
last year.
saying that I literally have told you I don't think every UCL team will beat every UAL team anyways.
But
My point is, in the years past, there was always an opportunity for.
we know about that.
Let's just take this season for example. Okay, City and PSG played the playoffs. Their City is whatever in the league, and then you have this guy also. What PSG also were are top of league. My point is, in years past, PSG would have dropped into the to the Europa League. City would have dropped into the Europa League. Your path to winning the competition is obviously going to be a lot harder because you get some of these teams that drop down to the Europa League, and it has always happened in the past that 1-2 teams have dropped down.
But my
it is
point
objectively
is,
harder. I don't know how this is a conversation we're having.
it is objectively harder because you're saying a team who finished. That's my point. You're saying AC Milan this season.
I'm not talking about AC Milan. I'm talking about.
Let me finish.
Rahul, you have to talk about the teams and their performances
How
that
they
season.
performing
No.
correctly, exactly.
Leicester City won the league in 2015 season. Rahul,
This season are league of winners at the moment.
Rahul, 2015-16, Leicester City were Premier League winners, and the next season they were draws. So the fact that they were playing in Champions League the next season when they were draws does not like.
Okay, so are we saying then, Rishi, by that logic, are we saying that because everything is circumstantial, that the Europa League is probably as tough as the UEFA Champions League? Then
That's not.
It definitely is not. That is not what we're going to say.
Not what we're saying. We're not saying that.
How do you know? How do you know? Last year, City won the Premier League. This year, they could be 18th. How do we know that it's going to be the same?
They could, but the point is, we have the league tables. We know how they're performing, so we can.
Exactly my point. So then, how are you saying that it is circumstantial for this?
Now,
but when I say, then the Europa League is the same as the Champions League, no? Because this year any team can perform anyhow. How can you say that based on last year's performances that
because the
you are
odds of where
that competition?
The odds of where top four teams or top three teams from every season play, the chances are that league is tougher to win.
Exactly. Now you're going to probability.
No,
I'm waiting. When I'm going to probability and saying that there is a chance that a pretty good team from the Champions League could drop to the Europa League, which has happened in the past. You're saying, how it can be circumstantial? How do you know like these teams will not be good?
I'm not saying
teams will not be good.
I am not saying it definitely is conclusive that it is like it is not easier or it is easier. There can be seasons where it is definitely easier. There can be seasons where it is completely it's up for debate. So because you can't generalize both these conditions, you simply have to accept what is going on right now. Because a team that drops down from the UCL might not be having a great season. At the same time, a team that is domestic, that is only sticking to Europa League and playing in Europa League, might be having a great season. So you don't have any metric to compare these two, which is why you can't conclusively say it is better or worse.
I have given you exactly that. If you had followed the same format of the Champions League, say in the years past, teams like PSG, potentially Real Madrid, Manchester City, would have dropped down to the Europa League. How are you objectively then saying it's easier to win it's not
I'll
easier
tell you why, Rahul. I'll tell you why.
Why?
It's simple. First of all, let's take it two separately. You're talking about the old format. Let's talk about the old format. You're saying old format.
One second, you guys are saying right now objectively.
1 second, let me finish.
I'm giving you the facts of this season. If it was the same format, it would have been harder.
1 second, let me finish.
There's no doubt about it.
Let me finish what I'm trying to say. You're telling let's go back to the old format, right? You're talking about how fair and how unfair it is. Let's go back to the old format where, the top, how is the old format? You have the same groups as UCL, top to finish. And then you have to play, a round of 32 and then a round of 16, right? If I'm not wrong.
No, you only have a round of 16 in the Champions League.
No, you had a round of 32 in Europa League.
In Europa League, you have a round of 32, yeah.
Exactly. The team that finishes second place is a UCL team, right? Before.
Correct. That's right.
That's what used to happen.
Correct.
Now, are you saying in the old format where a team that didn't perform well in the UCL
Yes.
Okay, they come down to the lower level league.
Yes.
They're supposed to be a higher tier team. Now they come back to a lower level league and they
Yes.
win it. But
Yes.
let's say the same thing in the league position, they're not in the top four as it was before. Let's say the seventh, eighth, even 10th, for example. Now, are you saying because they won the Europa League last year by only facing 3 rounds, they didn't face more than 3 rounds? They came in, they played lower tier teams. They have to play a round of 32, 16 quarterfinal. I think it was, I'm not sure. I think it was round of 16 directly, if I'm not wrong, but whatever. They have to play four
32.
knockout leagues,
They have to play
whatever. They have
32.
to play, they have to only play 4 knockout rounds. And
Five. Yeah.
if you win that, you're a winner of the Europa League,
Five knockout round.
which is easier than coming top four in the league, which is easier than winning the UCL. Which is, I also don't think that equally says, okay, is that meriting enough to be like, okay, now you deserve a UCL spot because you won the UEL, but you didn't finish top four in your league. I still think it's the same logic. Secondly, this, right?
Okay.
The whole
Then.
point is, I just want to say how we can be objective this season. If Atlanta, let's say, finished, okay, last year it was a different format.
Sure.
This season, coming into the Europa League, there are top teams. Olympic Lyon is a top four team in their own league. Athletic Bilbao is a top four team in their own league. Frankfurt is a top four team in their own league.
Okay.
I actually playing the UCL next season. There are a lot of teams that are playing, who are going to be playing UCL next season based on this year's performance, are in the Europa League. So can we sit and say beating a team like Athletic Bilbao is not a UCL level team? If you're qualifying for UCL this year, it means this season you were a UCL winning team. As Rishi said, are you saying objectively beating Leicester City in the year where they won the league versus next year when they were fighting for relegation is the same thing? Can you sit and say they were champions last year,
Bro,
so we
that's a
beat them?
rogue situation. You're taking the most rogue example and
I
putting
am
it.
not taking the most wrong
Yes,
example. I'm
bro,
telling
you're
you,
saying that how many times have you seen the Premier League winners
Rahul,
fight for relegation the next year?
it's
Rahul,
not
there
that
are
what I'm
there
It's a
are
saying.
rogue
ample
situation.
examples where teams from the teams have had
Okay,
good seasons in the previous
it's
year
been
and
the
are
last
performing
15
poorly.
years. You tell me your ample examples where you've seen the Premier League winners fight for relegation the next year.
Leicester
Rahul,
City.
I can give you I can
Give me
literally
the
give you
examples.
examples where teams have performed like really well in the previous season and are struggling in the current season.
No, that can happen. I'm saying,
Yeah,
where have
that's
you seen
exactly my point.
that
So
Okay,
on what
there
great.
has
basis?
been
Rahul,
Premier
I'm
League
not.
team winners go to
Rahul,
relegation next year?
Rahul, I'm
It
not
doesn't
talking about
happen.
that.
Let's be
I'm not
realistic
talking about
about it.
that. I'm talking,
Yeah.
let's say simple. Bro, last year Girona was a top four team in La Liga.
Okay.
This season,
Yeah.
the same Girona are performing terribly in La Liga, are performing terribly in Europe. Now, are you saying a team beats Girona this season is equivalent of beating, let's say, United? Wait. Like United beating Athletic Bilbao, who's fourth this season. Are you saying if some team like Liverpool, Arsenal beat Girona this year versus United beating Atletico Bilbao this year? Where are Girona? They're not in the top 10 in Europa. Even Real Sociedad, for example, they finished top four last season. This season, they're not in the top four. Yeah, it's the same thing. They're 8th, 11th or 12th, if I'm not wrong. Are you objectively saying United beating Real Sociedad and what do you call them? What Athletic Bilbao this year versus Arsenal and Liverpool beating Girona is the same thing? Can you say that?
I don't see what the comparison is here.
Dude, exactly. You're talking of Girona. Bro, it's simple. Girona was a top three team last year in La Liga, right? This
Okay.
season, when you play UCL, are you beating the team that finished third place last season? No, you're
So
playing a
again,
very
you're taking
different
a very
team.
specific example. I'm
No,
talking
but
about
my whole point is the
when you.
quality. Objectively, quality differs, Rahul. That's our
Of
point.
course it
My point
differs,
is
but
just
I'm
because.
I'm saying there are certain standards that always remain the same. Like for example, you'll always get consistency from Real
Yeah,
Madrid,
but we're not talking
Barcelona,
about
the
winning UC.
PSGs,
We're not talking about
Arsenal,
winning
Liverpool,
Europa League
City.
versus UCL is the same thing. We're telling a Europa League team deserves to play the UCL. We're not telling, oh, if you're winning Europa League, it's as good as winning UCL. That's not what we're talking about here. The small fine margins of winning a UEL can give you the merit of playing UCL. In our opinion, we are telling that is valid now because of the whole fact is winning a league. I mean, entire league is tough. It doesn't matter how you want to play. And you can't say teams like, again, a lot of teams in the Europa League can be playing UCL. The only reason they're not playing UCL is because, again, that's how the UCL works. You can only play 36 teams from different conferences of Europe. It's not the top 36 teams in Europe. If
Yeah,
that
I've
is how
already
it,
said that. I agree with that.
exactly, so if that is how it worked, then I would for obvious reasons, say I don't think they deserve it for sure. But we're not playing the top 36 teams every year. It's the top 36 teams of
Bro,
different.
you guys are not getting the argument. The argument is simple. It is just that here in this case, I'm not debating whether a Europa League winner deserves to go to the Champions League. That's not.
That's
I'm not
what we are
even talking.
talking about.
No, that's not. I'm saying in general. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying objectively looking at the competition and the way it worked. It promoted basically the winner of that competition to the Champions League in the previous format. The format has changed. I don't see when there is, it is on probability going to be a weaker competition now. Okay, like it is on probability going to be a weaker competition. I'm not saying it is definitely going to be a weaker competition, because you, like you guys said, it's circumstantial. Some things you can't help. But on probability, it is a weaker competition, because if you had played the same format, you would have had Real Madrid, PSG, City dropping down this year, and it would made the competition a lot harder to win. That's just what it is. I'm just saying,
I
giving you,
agree.
I'm giving
I
you the
agree to
circumstance of
that.
this year, and if that is going to be the case, I think there needs to be slight changes to what you're rewarding the winners. I'm not saying there should not be an incentive. There has to be an incentive, because otherwise, what's the point of playing? And then add an extra layer or something, like, and make it a little harder. That's it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that
Rahul,
this
but
shouldn't. It's not a tough competition to win. Of
I'm
course, it's
telling
tough in its
you,
own right.
Rahul,
Like,
but my point is you're sitting right now and saying it's easy to win a Europa League. It's not easy because at the end of the day,
I never
one
said
out
it's
of
not. I never said it's easy. I literally have never said it's easy. I said it's easier than the previous seasons.
exactly. But my whole point is it's not easy here. Like the whole fact is you can't value easier based on UCL teams not playing in the Europa League this season. For example, my whole
How
point is
could you? How can you not?
because from my whole perspective, UEL is a second tier league. So you're going to have second tier teams playing. At the end of the day, your quality is similar to a second tier team. We're talking about second tier teams playing second tier Europa competition. At the end of the day, if you're competing against someone who's at your quality, it's still tough for them to win. Now, my whole point is if you're competing against, a teams that's supposed to be in your level and you win it, I think you deserve a chance in the UCL based on the fact that those margins are very like the whole point is a team that comes last in the UCL versus a team that comes first in Europa League. That's what we're talking about at the end of the day. We're sitting and saying right now, whoever finishes last in UCL deserve a chance to be in UCL, but whoever finished first in Europa League, they don't deserve a chance to play UCL because of the fact that
I never
you
said
know
they don't deserve a chance to play UCL. You're changing what I'm saying.
you are telling they don't deserve it because of how the competition
No, I
works.
never said they don't deserve a chance to play in the UCL. They do deserve a chance. They just need one. I think there should be one more layer before that chance. That's it.
What do you mean layer? Like the whole
I
point
just
is
said
you
that I think there should be probably something like a playoff game. I
play
don't
up
know the
against
solution.
who,
I don't
Rahul?
have
Like
a
you can't have a
solution.
playoff game with anyone. Like that's the point.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't have the solution as to how they're going to work it out. But I think there should be a little more in there for to say that okay, yeah,
So
now you deserve.
that's my see. This is my only problem. For example, if I look at this competition and I saw a team like Bodo Glimt, let's say for example, take them and they won the Europa League today. Would you not sit there and say, okay, they do deserve a chance to be playing in the UCL? Like, honestly, do you think they don't?
I still stand by what I said. Objectively, unfortunately, like as pretty as
This is simple.
story
I'm
sounds,
telling you,
the story and the
hypothetically,
narrative sounds beautiful. But unfortunately, objectively, for me, it's still an easier competition. I would still keep it the same.
it's easier competition in what? Rahul, the whole point
I've
is you're
already
saying
said it, bro. I'm not saying it again. Okay, let's
you're
just
saying
let's
it's
let's wrap
easier
this up.
competition.
Bro, we're not going to agree on this. Like, I just think it's objectively easier. You don't think it's objectively easier, and
See,
that's
for
cool.
me, I'm ready to agree if you're going to sit and say any competition winner or any cup winners don't deserve to play Europa League, UCL. If you're in that
I've
objectivity,
already said
I
that
will.
to you. I've already said that to you.
You
I think
didn't.
in general,
You said.
I literally said, bro, if in an ideal world, I would say the league should determine everything.
Then
Unfortunately, that's not how the system
now,
works. I've already said that to you.
then our conversation should have been: do FA Cups deserve to play in Europa League? Because when Arsenal qualified, it was through FA Cup. When United
I
qualified this year to
agree.
the Europa
I
League, it's
never,
through FA
bro.
Cup.
That was not the conversation. My whole point is that is not the conversation we're having today.
No, my whole point is if we're okay with FA Cup winners playing Europa League, it is the same principle,
No,
but Europa League.
I literally told you. For me, in an ideal world, the league should determine everything, regardless
Now,
of anything.
so my simple question: when Arsenal won the FA Cup and they qualified for the Europa League, did you say this is unfair and they should not actually allow FA Cup winners playing the Europa League? Is that how
For
you
me,
thought?
I'm literally telling you, I think the league should determine everything.
Is that how you thought
But
then?
unfortunately the system the way it is,
Now
I'm not going to go
you're okay with
against
that
it.
system, but even
I'm
this is
not.
a system.
I don't see the FA Cup as the whole system with the FA Cup as being extremely flawed for me to go fight it.
How, Rahul? It's just wait.
What do you mean
I'll just
how?
give you. It's a simple thing.
I told you, you still have to play the best teams in England.
Rahul, do
When
you
Arsenal
realize?
won the FA Cup,
No,
we beat Manchester City in the semi-final. We beat
that's not.
Chelsea in the final.
Now you're not getting the point. Wait. You're not getting
No,
the point.
it's a different competition and it is still harder.
Exactly, but you're not getting the point. The point is you won an FA Cup. You had a bad league season. The team who finished seventh this season won't get their FA Cup spot because you won the FA Cup. Like that's, I mean, sorry, the team that finished
Yeah,
eighth.
I think it's harsh on the team that finished seventh in the league. I agree with that.
Exactly. So it's the
But
same thing.
I'm not going to discredit the cup itself. You're not getting what I'm saying. I'm
But
saying
you're
the cup
discrediting
itself has
Europa
some merit.
League.
I
How?
agree. I think it's harsh on the league. That's what I'm saying. Ideally, in an ideal world, I would have everything with the league. I'm not. And bro, let's move on from this now. With
But
100,
the point is you're okay with
we're
the
over
league.
an hour into this conversation. Let's wrap it up. We're not going to agree. And okay, Rishi, quickly, bro, how are you feeling today? What's the vibe? Are you who's winning?
I mean, I think United win 2-1.
Okay, let's just finish with that. Adi, who wins? United Spurs.
I don't know. Like, I think both team. I don't know about the injury status. I think both teams have a lot of injuries. I'm really not sure about who's missing, who's playing, so I can't really say based on the lineups. But I think overall, I think it's a tight game. I can't sit here and say there are two equal favorites. I mean, two. There's one clear favorite. Sorry, I think they're both equal favorites in my eyes. I think both can win it. It just depends on the team that shows up that day. And my point is, I really don't know who's fit for Tottenham. Is really like I am clueless in based on who's fit. Like there are a bit defensive concerns. I think
Oh,
a bit of their young
Uh,
players.
Confirmed absentees for them are Bergwall, Madison, and Kulusevski.
So their main team players are missing two players, but my point is defensively, like they've had a lot of players missing. So like I don't know how they're going to come and play like suddenly, after a long time of not being well versed with the conditions. Same thing with sorry, what do you call it? United. Like they have players coming back from injury. They're not. I don't know who's going to start, who's not going to start. I visually look at both teams. I think they're both equal in terms of again like the way the season's gone. I think both of them can face each other and anyone can win. I really can't sit and say one team is going to win. For me, I'm fine, bro. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who wins for me. Like I think at the end of the day, if you're winning it, you're winning. And I can't sit and say this team's better, that team's better, or it doesn't matter. It's not any concern of me, to be honest. But yeah, like I think whoever wins this season, I think it just helps them financially. I think that's what matters for them. And in that sense, I think good for them if they're able to like win the trophy. But yeah, like I think both are equally out there to win.
yeah, it's a hard one to call it. I don't think it's easy to call it all. I don't know which one I would have rather lose. To be honest, I actually probably would say I want United to lose more than Spurs. But yeah,
Hashtag true hater. Huh?
yeah. I hate both teams, but I think United a little more. So yes, so we'll wrap it up with that, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like and share the videos. Let us know your thoughts on whether Europa League winners should directly get a qualification should get a spot in the Champions League. And yeah, if you're watching it before the United Spurs game, let us know your thoughts on who's going to win.